Well, next tonight, that long-awaited inquiry into COVID is ongoing. Boris Johnson, of course, answering further questions today. He is defending his tier system. He's been defending the circuit breaker, the Eat Out to Help Out scheme as well. He's been questioned extensively on the build-up to the second lockdown and spoke about those Partygate parties in Downing Street as well. When questioned about his comments around a let-it-rip approach, Johnson seemed frustrated.
If you look at what we actually did, we went into lockdown as soon as we could the first time round, and we sensibly went for a regional approach when the disease picked up again, and then again went into lockdown on the 30th, 31st of October. And I think, frankly, it does not do justice to what we did, our thoughts, our feelings, my thoughts, my feelings, to say that we were remotely reconciled to fatalities across the country.
He was later asked about what was going on in Number 10 and how much he knew about it. He said the characterisation of what civil servants and advisers were doing is, quote, a million miles from the truth. He said he acknowledges that he should have done more, but drawing on his own stint in intensive care, he said it isn't correct to suggest that he didn't care.
I knew from that experience what an appalling disease this is. I had absolutely no personal doubt about that from March onwards. To say that I didn't care about the suffering that was being inflicted on the country is simply not right.
Now, the former Prime Minister has now finished his time on the stand, and on Monday it is the turn of current Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. So we're still asking what the families of those who lost friends and family make of this all. Do they accept Mr Johnson's repeated apologies? Do they believe the government at the time was doing everything it could? Tonight, I'm joined by Julie Goodwin, who is part of the Bereaved Families for Justice group. Julie's husband, Charlie, was a paramedic. He died from Covid-19 in April 2020, and she wasn't allowed to be there. Julie, thank you very much for joining us. And at the time, you did say that you felt numb, that while you were having a funeral for Charlie, the government was partying. What do you feel now when you look back on that period?
I'm absolutely disgusted. No apology he makes will convince me he actually means it. He's sorry, all right. He's sorry he got caught.
Yep, that's an understandable sentiment, and one I know that has been shared by many. We've seen bereaved family protesters standing outside the inquiry with signs saying, sorry doesn't bring our loved ones back. An apology just doesn't go far enough. What about the inquiry itself? Do you feel like that's doing anything?
I'm hoping we're going to get some answers, what we've been waiting for. I'm not convinced. But you never know, miracles could happen because there's a lot of unanswered answered.
What specifically, if you don't mind me asking, would you like answers to that would help you process what happened to you and your family and to Charlie? I mean, is it about the way the government operated the lockdown system? Was it the speed of the vaccine? Was it their own bad behaviour?
Well, they locked down too late. If they'd have locked down earlier, there'd have been a lot of lives saved. And as for the behaviour, while everybody else was in lockdown, unable to go to their loved ones dying in hospital, I didn't see my husband again once he'd gone out the door. That was it. I don't know what happened from him walking out the door. He actually did walk out the door. He was poorly, but I thought he'd come home. I didn't think he'd die. But then he went downhill overnight, and of course he was on his own. We weren't allowed to go, and all we were doing was just sitting and waiting for a phone call while they was partying and having a jolly good time. They're an absolute disgrace, and no apology comes close. I'll never accept an apology. They took everything from us.
Julie, I'm so sorry. Charlie was a paramedic. What would he have made of how the rest of the pandemic played out, given that he was a healthcare worker, when they eventually did lock down, when they started giving out the vaccine, and the length of the time that the pandemic went on? What do you think he would have made of the way that this country dealt with the pandemic?
Well, I think he'd have been disgusted how they behaved and all that. He'd have been absolutely fuming. But bearing in mind, he was in and out, that's another thing, he was in and out the nursing homes with no protective ring round them. Another lie, they said there was a protective ring round the nursing homes. He was taking people back from the hospitals, old people, untested.
And I'm sorry to keep bringing Boris Johnson up because I appreciate it's not comfortable for you, but obviously that is the story of that's the story of the day, and the reason that we're talking to you, because he was being interviewed today. But when he sort of seemed to be close to tears, when he talked about his own time in intensive care, when he recognised that it's a horrible disease, does any of that make you feel any particular way about him?
No. No, and after hearing some of the things he's actually admitted saying, like, let the virus rip, they'd had a good innings anyway. They were somebody's loved ones, somebody's fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers, mothers, you know, and he has admitted saying that, and he described it as just being a quote, and let the bodies pile up. Dominic Cummings well threw him under the bus.
Julie, it's so important to get your story and to hear from people like you. Again, the bravery of coming on television and talking about it and continuing the story, because it reminds us of that time. A lot of people want to forget, but it's so important that we don't, that the questions keep getting asked to government and they keep getting held to account. Julie Goodwin, we really appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.